remember the phrase, it was the crime of the century, all about the kidnapping and the death of the Lindbergh baby. It received such attention, of course, because Charles Lindbergh was such a famous person himself for flying solo over the transatlantic. You will meet Reeve Lindbergh, the youngest daughter, who writes eloquently in a book entitled Under a Wing about what all of these events, the crime of the century, meant for her family. But we begin our program with a very, very special treat. Colm Wilkinson is our guest. A scene from Jean Valjean, Les Misérables, played by Colm Wilkinson. This is what was said about this, that John Caird said to Andrew Lloyd Webber. He said, "I knew that the song was written by God, Bring Him Home, that song, but until now, when he heard you sing this, I was unaware that you'd engaged him to sing it."
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, you're so cynical. You're so cynical about this.
No, I remember when we did it first, all right. In fact, when it was written for me, obviously.
Yes.
And the cast were pretty taken aback with what we did with it. They'd not heard the song before.
Yeah.
And somebody did make some remark like that, all right, I remember. It's sort of apocryphal now, but... by the way, the song is, you know, Forbidden Broadway did a skit in Les Misérables, and they used to do, "This song's too high." that was the opening line, instead of God on high, "This song's too high." But I was actually going to bring that up a tone for the news to whoever's listening there. I was going to, singers, I was going to actually bring that. It's in A, I was going to bring it up to B, but then I thought,
if you have to do this a million times.
Exactly, that's what we thought. And I thought, oh no, so we kept it down in A.
But when you heard it, I mean, this role or this part, it was written for you. You knew it, you heard it, you felt it in a different way.
I tell you what I felt, and this is quite honest. I thought it was segmented too much when I heard that song first. I thought it was, you know, I'm used to the format of the song being sort of A, B, and finish, you know. This was sort of A, B, C, A, or something like that. And I thought, you know, but it was such... a song, the way he wrote it, it sort of suited my range, and it sort of worked out. I was very honored that he went away and did this song, and he says that, in fact, when he gets drunk, Claude Michel, and at different things, he sort of says, "I wrote this one song in my life, I wrote Bring Him Home for Colm," which is quite an honor, yeah. Now,
did you know the story? Did you read Les Misérables when you were a kid at school? Did you know about Jean Valjean?
Hadn't got a clue.
Not a clue.
I mean, when Victor Hugo didn't have a clue about it. They said the Hunchback of Notre Dame, oh yeah, Charles Lawton, yeah, I had an idea of the movie, but didn't know anything about it. But I found out pretty quick.
So do you remember what you thought when you read it the first time?
I was absolutely blown away, because I do quite a bit of reading. Not an intellectual, but I do love books, and I was absolutely, and it's my Bible. I go back to that book. I read it all the time. Once I'm in the role, I read it all the time. Because when I see the character on stage, then I have all that background info in my head.
Yeah. It is 1,200 pages after all.
Oh, but it's wonderful. I mean, and actually Waterloo, the description of the Battle of Waterloo is just amazing. But when I see Susan Gilmore as Fantine, I don't just see Fantine and Susan Gilmore, who's absolutely astonishing in this role. I just see her, and I see all that background information that Hugo has put into my head. I have it all in my head.
What are you in a musical performance, a musical theater? Taking one of these great novels, you have to synthesize, you have to pull out, you have to get this story down to its core and communicate that. What is it? What's the core?
The core is basically, for me, is the music. It's the music, it's what the lyrics tell you. You have to study that. And I believe that if you're honest about it, and you're not afraid to walk the line, which a lot of people are, and go too far with the emotion, I don't mean over the top, but I mean, if you take that character and honestly grasp it and do it the way your heart and your soul, it's a very spiritual thing, this show, and you go for it, that it works.
Do you like him? I mean, here is a guy who who lived a life of hell.
Yeah.
For stealing so he could feed his kid. I mean, do you identify? Do you get out on stage and say this is a decent human being?
Yes, I'm an Irish Catholic. I have a background in that, so it's quite a spiritual. You just try and deal with what you have. And each time, I mean, you were saying about sort of doing this role and doing it time after time after time. But I find the process of doing that actually is very illuminating. You're actually peeling back the onion, as they say. You're actually getting to the core. And it takes months and months to do that. You don't do that in the first night. You don't do it on the first take. It actually takes a long time to get actually into the essence of the character, into the heart and soul of the character.
So that is you, so that you play it, in a sense, with your eyes closed. This is not, it's almost not conscious.
I always think of, the way I approach it is, what would this person do credibly in that situation? Yeah. And I use a triangle situation in my head, too. It's me relating to the stage and then relating to the people. Mm-hmm. A lot of people work where they go from themselves out to the people and back to the stage. I never do. I try to make it as realistic as possible without being, you know, full of business. It's cutting back to the business, cutting back all that sort of over-the-top stuff and getting right into the honesty and the core of the music. It's such a great piece anyway. It's written by two French guys who respected Hugo in such a way. And only two French guys could have done that. And then Herb Kretzmer came and he had already worked with Charles Aznavour. Charles has no voice. No, Charles Aznavour. And he had a great affinity with the French language and he just translated this so wonderfully.
How many times have you done this, do you know?
I don't count really. I did it for a year in London when we created it. I did it for a year on Broadway, and I'm now done 3 months here. It's about 100 performances. I don't know what that adds up to, really. I really don't. A long time.
A long time. Yeah. Colm Wilkinson is our guest. We'll talk about the man and his music. You know, we like the Everly Brothers, too. It's not just the stuff you hear on the stage.
Oh,
Stay with us. You know his work on stage, Phantom of the Opera, Les Misérables. We're talking about Colm Wilkinson, and he is our guest. But this started way back. 1 of 10 kids, everybody in the family, had to sing or play or dance or find an instrument. I mean, this was competitive.
Yeah, we all had our party piece. I was just going to do that in the front of the
It's true. I've never used it.
Actually did a gig recently in London with Hey Mr. Producer for Cameron McIntosh, where I had to wear the beard to do the 2 roles. So I couldn't shave this off and I had to wear the beard as the front. It was looking very strange going around with this mask on and this beard sticking out. But in the family there were 10, 12, kind of my mom and dad. And there's a lot of music. My mom was singing. I heard she had 10 kids and sang all the time. I don't know, but she used to sing a lot.
Trying to block it out.
Exactly. I think so. Yeah, the kids. But my dad played a banjo and piano, and we all. You see, this was before telly. You know, the television, adverts of television, and as you know, the Irish are great storytellers and all that kind of stuff. And we have what they call the crack, not the real stuff. It's CRAIC, and it's fun. And everybody either recites poetry or sings a song or whatever, and we used to go around the family and the guests who would come in, and they'd have a party.
That was entertainment.
Yeah, that's the way you entertain.
Yeah.
And I remember my dad dragging me out of bed at probably 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock, with all his cronies down in the kitchen drinking Guinness, and he'd say, "Oh, he's a great singer, this kid," you know, and I'd be out of my brain. They put me up against the wall, and I'd be singing, it was all that kind of stuff. It was.
You're all nuts, eh?
Well, yeah, but nuts in a great way. You know, it's
absolutely.
a wonderful. But you know, there was so much music in our house. I mean, my mother was into opera as well. My elder sisters, everybody sang. So, from rock and roll, which I got into, to Puccini, to South Pacific, to, you know, Caruso, all those Geely, all those great tenors that I used to listen to. And then Elvis and Ray Charles.
You used to sing Everly Brothers with your brothers?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Do you remember any?
Bye-bye love, bye-bye happiness. There goes my baby with someone new.
You were supposed to get into the masonry business like Dad.
Oh, he was an asphalt contractor with the black tar stuff. Yeah, I was in it for 5 years with him, hanging out of roofs, measuring. But you know,
but this music kept pouring out of you.
Yeah, this is the great thing, and I keep on telling you, I was so fortunate in my life that this music was my hobby and my passion and what I loved to do, and I got into that inadvertently because I couldn't hack the other stuff. I couldn't work. My dad was pretty difficult to work with, and I was always out late at night playing with gigs. So I am now sort of working my hobby as such, which is what was my passion.
But were they worried? I mean, here was a job you could have had. You go into business with Dad, and instead you want to sing.
Oh yeah, I mean, my dad died last year, but up until about like when Les Misérables hit, that was '85. He was still on the phone, probably, and my sister used to say, Dad was on the phone saying, "Is everything all right?" And he's saying,
you pay the rent?
When are you going to get a real job?
I mean, you have 4 kids.
I have, yeah, that's right. He was always concerned about that situation, and everybody else. My mom, funny enough, was not. My mom had this great trust, you know, and she would always say, "Colm, don't be singing that loud stuff." You know,
meaning rock and roll.
And I remember she came to see, when I got the role of Judas in Jesus Christ Superstar, she didn't talk to me for about 3 or 4 months.
Because you played Judas?
She wouldn't talk to me. She refused. And this guy who played Pontius Pilate, Caro Doherty, he would phone up and say, and he knew my mom because I told him, and he knew what the situation was at home. And he would say, "This is, hey, Mrs. Wilkinson, this is Paunchy here." And he said, "There's Judy baby up yet," you know. My mother used to go, "That communist is on the phone." She used to call him a communist. Yeah.
Anybody that's bad.
Yeah, it's a commie. Anybody, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they've done. They're all communists. Yeah, terrible.
Now, the Phantom story, I have got to confess, because when you live in a place where the Phantom plays and everyone that comes to visit you, I've seen it, I don't know, 5,000 or 6,000 times. Right. Maybe 6 or 7, okay, realistically. Do you love that role in the same way as Jean Valjean, or no?
I'm closer to Les Misérables, I think, because I created that role. But I did actually sing that music first. I was very fortunate, you see. I sang Les Mis first, that music first. I sang the Phantom music first.
So it's yours.
I sang the Evita. Well, Michael Crawford did the role on stage, but I was asked to do it down in Sidmonton when we did it at Weber's house in the workshop in '85, but was already contracted to do Les Misérables. And he asked Cameron McIntosh, and he said, "No. No." And I remember this distinctly, coming back from Weber's house with Cameron in the car. Cameron, if you ask Cameron, if you ever get him in here, ask him, he does all this terrible Irish accent about me, saying, and all this. But actually what he said was, I said to him, that Andrew was asking me about doing the Phantom, and I said, I love the music, because when I sang Music of the Night first, it's just, I started to cry. I mean, it's just unbelievably beautiful, I thought. And I said to actually, Andrew, I'm starting to cry. I'm trying to pull back. And he says, no, go for the emotion. But what Cameron said to me, he said, if Les Misérables doesn't work, you can do the Phantom. Imagine making a statement. That's all.
Well, everybody thought Les Mis was going to be a flop.
Doom and gloom and all that. The press, and they were vicious in London. And it was great, Pamela, to go back for the 10th anniversary concert at the Royal Albert Hall and go, well, I won't tell you what I did. But
what did you do?
Where are you? Well, I did that. Where are you guys now? You know, you crits.
No, it's been hugely, I mean, $2 billion in sales.
Now, I'm not saying just because it's a financial success makes it artistically viable and artistically a success. But I'm just saying it is a wonderful piece. I mean, it's a wonderful musical.
The fight over whether musical theater is art and whether is it?
You know, what is art? It's the conception in one's head of what you see as art. You know, all I know is that people come in night after night after night to see Les Mis, to see things like the Phantom, and they're entertained. I'm in the entertainment business. I entertain people. That's my job. That's what I do. And I happen to be so lucky to have been in Les Mis and the Phantom, which are two of the biggest successes of musicals of all time. And I don't think about that. I work for the people. the people in London made Les Mis. They stood up every night.
Against all the critics.
Yeah, I mean, Cameron was not going to bring it, take it out of the bargain and transfer it. He thought because of the reviews. He couldn't understand. Nobody could understand. But it was political over there. Cameron McIntosh, being a commercial entrepreneur with the Royal Shakespeare Company. Oh, no way, darling. We couldn't wear that. And that was the problem.
It's entertainment. It's enjoyable.
Absolutely. Sit there.
Right.
Hey, listen, you know,
I'm with you.
I was with somebody at Riverdance, and they were saying to me, well, what is it? I said, are you enjoying this?
Right.
And they said, yeah. I said, what do you want?
It's like the painting on the wall.
Exactly.
If you like it.
If you love it, go for it, you know.
We'll continue our conversation with Colm Wilkinson in just a moment. He has won many awards. He graces the stages internationally when it comes to theater, but Colm Wilkinson won a major award for, which he just told me, for holding the longest note.
Yes. In Ireland recently, I won. They had this competition where they got up all these records together, and for holding a note. I know there's a guy in Canada actually who's held a note quite long as well. But I actually won it for the note at the end on this record that I made, Stage Heroes. Yeah. The note at the end of The Phantom, Music of the Night.
Yes.
I've never clocked it, to be quite honest, but seemingly that's what won it. That won the longest note.
And the Bee Gees, your version of the Bee Gees was a runner-up.
Oh, yes, the 1st of May was a long note as well, the end of the 1st of May.
Now, do you still swear by the old Irish remedy, which is a clove or two of garlic and some honey for the voice?
Oh, yeah.
Do you really?
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. My mother used to have, in the west of Ireland where she came from, there's always patches of garlic in the gardens, and they reckon it's great antiseptic. You say it clears the blood all the time, and it's, I mean, people, you don't have many friends because of this, you know, and
well,
you can't use it on stage.
You work at night anyway, so.
You can't use it on stage, Pamela, because, you know, but at night I would have honey and the garlic, and I chew the raw garlic with the honey and swallow it. I don't take too much of it. Yeah. But it's great.
And is that really what
Italians should eat it all the time with
sure,
their food.
Ukrainians and everyone.
Yeah,
but is that, what else do you do to protect this instrument?
You don't sing between shows. Yeah. You don't talk. You don't smoke. And alcohol is, I don't drink, but you're not.
For an Irishman, I was going to say.
No, I don't drink. I actually, I've tried it a couple of times. I used to, but I absolutely believe that the reason why I can sustain shows as the way I do, please God, I can go on sustain, is because I don't smoke, because I don't drink too much alcohol, or I don't drink at all, and I just rest or watch it, you know. I mean, you don't have to be fanatical about it, but
common sense.
Doing this show, I have to be. This is a tough one. Les Mis is a tough gig.
It's so demanding.
It's a tough show.
Now, Colm said to me in the break something I found really interesting, that, you know, when we were talking about art and what is art and all of that, that you could say a lot of things about Shakespeare or Victor Hugo or anything else, or the music.
I love Hugo, yeah.
But in fact, your inspiration is really your wife.
Yes, I just think of, Deirdre has always been my greatest support, you know, and I admire her so much as a person. Yeah. And she is my inspiration. I mean, she keeps me going, basically, you know. When I'm sort of down and she was the one who actually got me to do the 10th anniversary concert video. I didn't want to do that at all.
Because this is so draining.
She said, no, she said to me, I said, look, I've done it. I leave well enough alone. I sort of left a fairly decent record of what I'd done on stage and Broadway and etc. And she said, you should be there. She's common sense, you know. Yeah. Where I'm sort of, you know, a bit off the wall at times. But
I would have never guessed.
No, she's great. And
you also do your bit in the community. I mean, raising money for AIDS and your...
Yes, I try to. In fact, if I may say, on December the 7th, we are putting together a show to benefit AIDS. We haven't got the venue yet. I hope it's going to be the Princess of Wales Theatre, but
so many in the business you've lost, and...
Oh, it's terrible. I mean, yes. I mean, it's an epidemic, and people tend to forget about it because as time goes by, other things take precedence, but it's still there, and it's still as, you know, as devastating as ever. So please come and support this gig. Everybody in the cast are going to do their party piece. I'm going to come along and do some rock and roll, and hopefully get my son Aaron to do some singing with me.
Oh, there's a kid in the business.
Oh yeah, Aaron, he's a singer-songwriter, great, and we do a little duet together called Father and Son. You remember the Cat Stevens song?
Yeah.
Father and Son, we do that together.
Will you come back, the two of you?
I'd love to do it here.
Oh, right. Okay, that's what we'll do. Thank you so much for coming.
It's been great.
We've got two treats for you, because when we come back, you will meet Reeve Lindbergh, one of the Lindbergh children. But before we do that, we are going to listen to Colm Wilkinson, and this is Bring Him Home.